Welcome to M&A Mondays, the UK's first YouTube series dedicated to all things M&A. From interviews with the leading figures in the industry, to coffee chats with analysts, diversity panels, all the way through to workshops, we'll be covering it all. We do hope you enjoyed the video, and please give us a like and a follow on our social media. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode in M&A Mondays, the UK's first YouTube series dedicated to all things M&A. My name is Patrick Gorton and I'm the founder and co-head of the UCL M&A group, and alongside me is Tim Lee, an events officer and a TMT analyst within the group.
Today we are absolutely delighted and honoured to be joined by PJ Bouten. PJ graduated from the University of Leuven, the largest university in Belgium, with an MA in law and also holds a law degree with distinction from King's College London. PJ began his career as an analyst at Greenhill in June 2001 and has had an incredible career at the firm, having worked there for almost 20 years, with his current role as the head of Greenhill UK and the head of European TMT.
It is worth also mentioning that PJ was once included in the Financial News' 40 Under 40 Rising Stars in Investment Banking. We are incredibly honoured to have him with us today. So I guess without further ado, let's begin. Hi PJ, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Lovely to see you. All right.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us. I guess the first question I wanted to ask you is, having studied law at university and taken internships at firms such as Linklaters, what prompted you to make the switch to investment banking?
Well, interesting. I mean, I never really thought about it as a switch to investment banking. I mean, for me, the choice was, do I want to start my career in Belgium, where I grew up, where I went to university, or do I want to move to London? I mean, if I would have stayed in Belgium, I would most definitely have started my career in a law firm. And most probably Linklaters, De Band van Ecke and Lagar, as it was known at that time. But in London, I mean, when you think about careers, I mean, the field is wide open, and that's probably something that appealed to me. I mean, as a fresh graduate, I mean, you look at the top career rankings, the top career destinations, and back in 2000, when I was interviewing, I mean, it was definitely investment banking, mergers and acquisitions was, I would say that the number one on the rankings, the top choice, probably followed by management consulting. And so that's what I did. I mean, I started with what was considered as a prestigious career destination, and I never looked back.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I guess the next question I wanted to ask you was, what initially drew you to Greenhill, and how does Greenhill differentiate itself? And then to add to that, some people switch around with firms in their career, and having almost been at the firm for almost 20 years now, what's kept you so long?
Interesting question. 20 years, huh? I think 20 years ago, it probably all came down to the people, and I think that still holds true today. I mean, when I interviewed, I mean, there were two firms that really stood out. And one was Morgan Stanley, and the other one was Greenhill. And I mean, at that time, and less so today, of course, but at that time, Greenhill was very much considered on the street as a bit of a Morgan Stanley spin-off. And you've got to know that Bob Greenhill was a Wall Street veteran, is still a Wall Street veteran, but he served as president of Morgan Stanley. He had a 30+ year career at that firm, where he joined in the early 1960s, where he actually was the guy who was responsible for the formation and building of the mergers and acquisitions department. And of course, he made it all the way to the top. He was the president of Morgan Stanley for many years. But yeah, so in terms of what appealed to me and what I thought kind of differentiated Greenhill, as I said, it was probably the people that I met, that I interacted with during the interview process, and that really made a difference. I mean, they were that little bit more interesting, that little bit more diverse, more international, more dynamic. I mean, it was a small office. I mean, you've got to remember Greenhill in 2000 was 2 offices, New York and London, working very closely together, but already had a very impressive track record. So, I mean, I remember that one of those deals that was definitely one of flagship deal was Bob advising the US Department of Justice on the landmark antitrust case against Microsoft, arguing for the breakup of Microsoft. But also, I mean, the people I met had a noticeable kind of drive to grow and to expand, to make a mark, and that was definitely exciting to be part of a project, to be part of a growth story, and that growth has continued. I mean, today, from those 2 offices, we're now 16 offices worldwide. And today, we're now listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And today, we've got, give or take, 75 managing directors. So kind of, yeah, in terms of your question there, what kept you at the firm for so long? I mean, really, what keeps you at the firm is probably the opportunity to work with some incredible mentors. I mean, whether it is Simon Burrows and James Lupton, who started the London office, were probably 2 of the best bankers in the London market from, say, mid-90s to late noughties. I mean, we're great leaders who led by example, and but also people like Richard Hoyle. Richard now runs TMT at Lazard, but has been an incredible mentor, a very effective banker, great humility, great drive, very good communicator. But also on the telecom side, which is I spend a lot of time on, as you said in your introduction, and somebody like Gil Ha. I mean, he's now retired, but back in the day, probably one of the best telecom bankers on Wall Street. I mean, he's the guy who advised on the many deals that have resulted in the current AT&T. So someone with real vision, real focus on the needs of the client, the needs of the company, the needs of the situation. So yeah, I mean, people that drove you to a decision, kind of, and a good feeling around joining this organization, people that kept you with the organization, great mentors, and also the great opportunities. I think, I mean, Greenhill as a firm has always offered a lot of what I would describe as freedom to roam. I mean, an opportunity to develop successful franchises, like what we're doing today on the digital infrastructure side, for example. I mean, the opportunity to advise many companies, to advise CEOs, to help them facilitate their objectives, their dreams, their aspirations. And yeah, time flies. I generally can't believe it's been 20 years, especially 20 years at the same firm, which is probably quite unique in the current working environment. But one thing is for sure, I mean, it never really felt like a routine during those 20 years.
Thank you for that really interesting answer. Our next question for you is one that I'm quite curious about, actually. So having successfully risen the ranks to a senior leadership position, what do you think made you stand out when they were considering who to promote?
Whoa, what makes me stand out? I'm not sure about that. It's probably a bit of a mix, more than a specific quality. I mean, first you start with hard work. I mean, you don't get anywhere without hard work and putting in the hours, and in my case, probably hard work mixed with a good degree of creativity. I mean, in Dutch, I always call it kind of boerenverstand. It's one of those beautiful Dutch words. You can't necessarily literally, if you would translate it literally into English, it would say kind of farmer's understanding, which probably is not a perfect. I mean, it is common sense. It's somewhere between horse sense, common sense, that you need to apply in a business like ours. And yeah, you probably mix that with a bit of survival, and let's not forget luck. I mean, you've got to take the opportunities when they present themselves, and sometimes that means you've got to step up to the plate when there is an opening, when there is an opportunity within the organization you work with, and you have to have the confidence and the support, but also the confidence that you've earned your right to be where you are and to never sell yourself short.
Yeah, thanks for that. And my next question for you is on like the work you do on a daily basis. So having worked on an extensive range of really interesting deals, out of all of them, are there any that particularly stand out to you? And could you just tell us a bit more about them?
Well, in those 20 years, there have been many deals. I think, I mean, there have been successful deals. There have been as many unsuccessful deals, and I must say, you probably learn from both. And ultimately, I mean, what keeps you going and what keeps you motivated is probably that the most interesting deal is yet to come. Because there's always exciting opportunities on the horizon and exciting projects to be part of. But I mean, if I would look back, I would say, and have to single out a single deal, as you asked, I would say, I'd say the take private of City Fiber. I mean, that was really a fascinating deal, one that was tricky to stitch together. I mean, we put together a consortium comprising of Anton Infrastructure Partners and Goldman Sachs Merchant Banking Division. I mean, two investors who had not worked together before. That deal, of course, was a take private, so that's a public to private transaction. It happened at a breathtaking premium to an undisturbed share price, despite the complexity. When I say undisturbed share price, I meant there was no leak in the public to private, despite, I would say, the best part of half a year of due diligence and preparation. It was a deal with some big characters, and it's a deal that that I would also consider as very central to the UK economy. I mean, if you ever were in any doubt of the importance of fiber and the importance of digital infrastructure today, more than ever. But to be part of that transaction and to be part of the company has been it's great fun, and it's obviously in that sense kind of satisfying to contribute as a banker.
Great, thank you for that. So I guess the next question from me would be, as the head of Greenhill UK and the European head of TMT, what does a typical day look like for you? And then just to add to that, were you always interested in TMT, or have you developed that interest over the breadth of your career?
Okay, let's start with a typical day. I mean, I'm a big believer in mens sana in corpore sano. I mean, a healthy mind in a healthy body. So I'm the banker that wouldn't necessarily get dropped by the executive cab, but I'm the banker that you would see cycling into the office early in the morning. And now that we're in lockdown, I'd go for a run first thing in the morning. But or indeed, as we do within our office, I mean, with our office, we kind of doing an alternative Tuesdays or Wednesdays. We're doing these virtual boot camps or high intense interval training. A great opportunity to do something together with the team, and the great opportunity to fire up your brain before 9 a.m. When the day really starts. But a typical day is pretty scheduled. I think it's spent a lot of time with existing clients, or indeed meeting new companies that might become clients in the future. I mean, you spend a lot of time also with the team, again, on existing deals or on new opportunities. And it's a diary that is very set. It's fair to say it's very full, but it's also never dull. And actually, although the diary is very set, it's always unpredictable. I mean, especially in live deal situations. And as you can imagine, we're running many deals in parallel. There's always an issue that needs your attention, that needs kind of your priority. And now that we're working from home, and everybody is, I mean, we're probably working very hard across the different time zones. We don't need to travel as much as we do, so we're all working virtually. Clients are working virtually, and it's fair to say it's also one of the best M&A markets we've seen for a while. So that means across those time zones, yeah, it does mean that it sometimes starts early and finishes late, depending on the geography or the counterparty you're transacting with. In terms of your second question there, kind of your passion or my passion for TMT, whether it was always there, whether it was developed. I think it was always there. I mean, at Greenhill, you do get trained as a generalist, but don't forget, I started my career in 2001. I mean, the period that is now known as the internet bubble. And so TMT was always the aspirational sector. I got my baptism of fire at Greenhill, very much working on some of the divestments of cable and wireless, which is a big client Greenhill was working with together with Merrill Lynch at the time. But we worked on selling Hong Kong Telecom to PCCW, on selling Optus in Australia to Singapore Telecom, or buying Exodus and Digital Island in the US. Yeah, I would say fast forward to today, TMT, I would say, is a very much focused on an industry set, which is very much in motion, especially when it comes to topics like digital infrastructure, when it comes to the digital economy. I mean, we work with telecom operators, with cable companies, we work with tower companies, with data center operators. We work with technology companies, yeah, I think it is this world of TMT and of digital is definitely always evolving, and it's nice to work in a sector where I would argue there's innovation built into our clients. Yes, a very exciting space to advise clients in.
Tim, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, my bad. I was just saying, yeah, I can definitely agree with that, being in the TMT team at the UCL M&A group myself. And just our final question for you, PJ, would be, what advice would you give to younger people looking to go into investment banking, and sort of what can they expect from this industry?
I mean, whatever you want to do in business, I'd still argue that investment banking is probably one of the best places to start your career, because you get a lot of exposure, and especially in a firm like Greenhill, but you get a lot of exposure to different sectors, to different managing directors, MDs, to different clients across different geographies. And that exposure is second to none. It's very hard to find it in a different industry at an early stage. And what can you expect? I mean, you should expect to be working very hard, which is kind of on par with the learning a lot. And I mean, you do get to learn a lot. You get to learn a lot of skills. You become very good at problem solving. I think that's a very important skill that doesn't necessarily always get taught on the university benches, and that's very important, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to achieve in business, in life.
Great. Well, thank you very much, PJ. We really appreciated you doing this interview with us today. For all of our viewers watching, as the old saying goes, please do give this video a like and subscribe by clicking the button below. And thanks again, PJ. We really appreciate it.
Fantastic, Patrick, Tim, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.